Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to invite everyone to take their seats. Our Friday night services are like the original TGIF. It's a true thank God it's Friday. And we join together in gratitude and enjoy tonight with Hine Matov. Please join me. Hine Matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine Matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. How good it is, how good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is so good to be together this evening to bring in Shabbat. I'm Rabbi Leah Fein, and I'm joined by Cantor Sugerman. Susan Rosenstein is our music director. Ava is our musician tonight, and we are so grateful that all of you are here together to join us for Shabbat. We'll begin our service with candle lighting, and we don't have any B'nai Mitzvah this week, so we would like to invite up, if there are any July birthdays or anniversaries here, we would like to invite up any July birthdays or anniversaries to light candles. Donna Nadell, also celebrating retirement. Two of the people who make Wilshire Boulevard Temple what it is and make Shabbat what it is. So we're so grateful.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat.
Thank you and happy birthday to Donna and to Susan. We'll continue with Shalom Aleichem, welcoming the angels of Shabbat. We are on page 24.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ani l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzidchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We watch the light of our Shabbat candles continue to dance in the soft wind that we feel here outside as we turn to Lecha Dodi on page 20. And the first verse that we are going to sing together in Lecha Dodi, the line starts with Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, the words keep and remember, and a single commandment. And Shamor and Zachor are the first words of the commandment about Shabbat. One is used in the book of Exodus, and the other is used in the book of Deuteronomy. And for many, it's the reason why we have two Shabbat candles, bringing those words, observe and remember, together. And so our rabbis 2,000 years ago tried to figure out, why is it that the Torah even had two separate words to command about Shabbat? And they reasoned that one is to explain all the things that we are meant to actively do on Shabbat, and the other is meant to explain the things that we should refrain from on Shabbat. So as we sing Lecha Dodi, welcoming in the Shabbat Queen, the Shabbat Bride, we're especially attuned as well as we look at our Shabbat candles to the things that we actively want to do this week, today, for Shabbat, and the things we might want to refrain from. Lecha Dodi is on page 20.
verse 5. Hitoreri, hitoreri, hiva ore, umi uri, uri, shir daberi, kevod Adonai alayik nigla. Shalecha dadi, lecha dadi legrat kala, enei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dadi legrat kala, enei Shabbat nekabela. Please rise for verse 9. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzola, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, lecha dadi, lecha dadi legrat kala, enei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dadi legrat kala, enei Shabbat nekabela. We remain standing for the Baruch Hu, our call to worship on page 28. Lai, 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 lai,
You may be seated. Ahavat Olam is on page 32.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Hukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbeinu ufkumeinu nasiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei toratecha ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה נגה יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. We continue with Ve'ahavta on page 36. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושינתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים לחיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
This week, our parsha is Matot Maseh, a double parsha at the very end of the book of Numbers, of Sefer Bamidbar. And in Parashat Maseh, it opens with a long list of places that the Israelites have been as they've wandered in the wilderness these past 40 years that have been recounted. And today, Cantor Lisa, if anybody read her beautiful Shabbat message, she cited Rashi on this part of the Parsha. Rashi, one of our most famous commentators, who says that this moment where God is reminding the people of where they've been through Moses, of every single step, of every stop on their journey, is likened to a king whose son fell sick, and they went together on this journey through his recovery. And so the king reminds his son at every moment, remember, this is where you had a headache. Remember, this is where we went to a doctor. Remember, this is where you felt better. Those ups and those downs, those challenges and those successes in every part of that journey. And Mi Chamocha, the next prayer that we are going to say together, brings us in to one of the high points of our journey as a collective people. And just as our Parsha this week does, it takes us back, even though the people that Moses and God are speaking to in Parashat Maseh were not the people who themselves experienced the Exodus, it's still worth remembering. It's still worth putting those words into our mouths, still worth going on the journey of the highs and the lows together, knowing that we are approaching and will soon enter the promised land. Mi Chamocha is on page 40.
Mi Chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha neder bakodesh, nora tehilot כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Amen. We'll continue with Hashkivenu on page 42, our prayer for refuge that we only say in the evening. This idea of refuge is heavily present in Parshat Maseh. It is this idea of cities of refuge comes up for the very first time in our Parsha this week. And in Hebrew, the phrase for cities of refuge is Arei Miklat. Has anybody heard the word Miklat before? Anyone who has maybe spent time in Israel? Yes. Do you remember what it refers to in this? Exactly. So in Israel, there are signs for Miklat all over the country. It's a sign for shelter, or specifically for a bomb shelter. And that word Miklat comes up 10 times over the course of this Parsha. And so as we sing Hashkivenu together, it doesn't use the exact phrase Arei Miklat or the word Miklat, but this idea of refuge is the same idea from Hashkivenu through our Parsha. And the message, I believe, of our Parsha and Hashkivenu is to invite us to think about how we are creating refuge for anybody in need. As we continue to pray for safety and for shelter for all of us and for anyone in need around the world. Hashkivenu is on page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. Ve'ha'amidenu shomreinu lechayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, over Jerusalem, and over humanity. And we say, Amen.
Amen.
We'll rise now for the Amidah on page 46.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. We continue silently. you have finished your Amidah, please feel free to be seated. If you're still praying, remain standing until you've completed your prayers. We continue with a prayer for peace found in the Amidah prayers on page 60, Shalom Rav. May this be a Shabbat of peace, of joy. May our world just be calm to the Shabbat. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav
we have the opportunity now to offer a Mishaberach, a prayer for healing for anyone in our community, in our lives, anyone we know in need of physical, spiritual, emotional healing. From our community, we are sending our prayers for a refuah shlema, for a full and speedy recovery, to Cynthia Allen, Bonnie Chiswick, Chaim Dovid, Dalia Bat-Faranji, Harvey Fein, Juliet Gottfried, Karina Wallen-Harar, Cindy Jacobson, Ann Patterson, Stephen Richland, Quincy Rose, Robert Bob, David Rednick, Brenda Schwartz, Ira Simons, Ansel Sloan, Shraga Stern, Deborah Wallen, Don Weiss, Phyllis Kramer-Wolf, Manusher Yahubian, Saeed Mayer Udim, and Julie Zoerb. Is there anyone else that you are thinking of tonight who you would like to send a refuah shlema to? We turn to page 253 for our Mishaberach.
Mishaberach Avoteinu אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, הוא יברך וירפא את החולים. אל נא רפנה, אל נא רפנה, אל נא רפנה, אל נא רפנה. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, הוא יברך וירפא את החולים.
We wish them all a refuah shlema, a full and speedy recovery. On Sunday morning, my family and I were sitting with my aunt, lucky enough to be chatting with her as she reflected on a full and colorful and joyful life. She is an artist, as was her mother before her, a generational gift that unfortunately skipped me, but is fully present in my brother and many members of our family. We talked about creativity and about art as memory in our family. And eventually the conversation turned to relationships and then to honesty, and how vital it is to say what is on our minds and speak openly with the people who we love the most. We shared the many times we have fallen short on this, and how we might be more intentional with the words that we use. And it was through this lens of that conversation that I read this week's Parsha, Matot Maseh, again, this double Parsha right at the end of the book of Bamidbar, right at the end of the book of Numbers, which opens with the following commandment. If a man makes a vow to the Lord or takes an oath imposing an obligation on himself, he shall not profane his word. He must carry out all that has crossed his lips. In other words, any vow that a person makes to God is completely binding. And interestingly, the Torah doesn't just say that a person cannot break his word, it says that a person cannot profane his word. And Rashi and other commentators take this to mean that the words of this type of vow are sacred, that they are somehow elevated in status, which means that breaking them is the equivalent of profaning holy language. The Hebrew word for vow that's used here is neder, which is the same word that we use at the beginning of Yom Kippur during the Kol Nidre prayer. Kol Nidre meaning all of our vows. And you'll remember that the text of Kol Nidre, which we will be saying together in just a couple months, declares that in the coming year, any vow, any promise that we make to God but are unable to keep will not be held against us. The entire theology of Kol Nidre is based on this text from Parashat Matot about the significance of a neder, the significance of a vow made to God, and the power that the Torah gives to our words. But as with many Hebrew words in the Torah, the English translation of neder to vow doesn't capture the full power of a neder. A neder the Torah is talking about here in our Parsha is very narrowly defined. It's a pledge that a person makes to God that prohibits something that is otherwise permitted. So if, for example, I said apples are forbidden to me for the next month, there is, of course, no Jewish legal issue with eating an apple. An apple is kosher. It is perfectly fine to eat. But if I made a neder saying I can no longer eat apples, then for me, the legal status of any apple has now changed. my neder would make any apple I ate unkosher for me during that month. And I realize that this specific law about a neder isn't necessarily the most captivating or dynamic part of the Torah, but the implications of this commandment are massive. And that's because the commandment represents a significant shift that is taking place. Because until now in the Torah, only God could create a commandment. The people followed these commandments, were obligated in these commandments, but God alone created them. Then here comes the introduction of the neder in Parashat Matot, and all of a sudden a person now has the power to create what until now only God could create. And that is the ability to create a brand new commandment, one that is binding and just as punishable as any commandment made by God. The neder is a lesser known phenomenon of language that we have in the Torah. But of course, the most famous story of the world-altering nature of words that the Torah offers us is at the beginning of Genesis, when God creates the world through speech. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Over and over and over again, God's words are what bring reality into being. And now here at the very end of the book of Numbers, the Torah suggests that while people cannot create worlds in the way that God does, God has still entrusted people, God has entrusted each and every one of us with a small measure of that exact same creative power. Through a neder, our words too create an entirely new reality. There are a number of prominent biblical scholars who argue that the Torah actually makes much more sense if it is just the first 4 books. So Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers. Those are the books that tell a chronological story of creation to the edge of the promised land. And the 5th and final book of the Torah, the book of Dvarim, of Deuteronomy, is in a different category and quite literally in a different voice. Deuteronomy is Moses' final speech to the Israelites, his retelling of all that has happened to them on their journey. This week we finished the book of Numbers, which means that the book we begin next week is the book of Deuteronomy. And I love the poetic symmetry of this theory. God begins in Genesis with creation through words, and Numbers ends with God giving Israel the gift of creating, of obligating, of sanctifying, also through words, through our own words. It's an ancient message that feels so urgent and so alive in our age of quick text abbreviations and social media slang and every constant app notification that we get. When I was working at Columbia Barnard Hillel, I got off of social media after October 7th because the algorithms were almost entirely populated with these eye-catching graphics rather than any words of nuance or substance. Our Parsha this week offers us a radically different vision of words. It reminds us that speech is not just a way to express ourselves. It is our sacred act of creation just as it is God's. And all week, I've been coming back to that conversation on Sunday that we got to have with my aunt. We started by talking about creativity and art, but most of our time was really spent on talking about honesty through our words. And in the moment, that felt like 2 completely different conversations that we were having. But in retrospect, I now understand how they spoke to each other and related to one another. A neder is one of the Torah's clearest examples of human creativity. With nothing more than our words, we can create a new obligation and sacred speech where none existed before. And at a time when words are just treated as swipeable or disposable, Parashat Matot insists to us that our words are and still can be covenantal acts of holiness and of creation. They can bind us more tightly to our values, hold us accountable to the obligations that we make, deepen our relationships, and ultimately help create the kind of world in which we aspire to live as we move from phase to phase on our journey. Shabbat Shalom. As we move toward the end of our service, a quick announcement and many, many thank yous to our Cantor, our musicians, our sound team, AV is here, security, our events team, facilities, everybody this is not a small operation. There are so many people who make this happen, and of course to all of you for not just making a minyan, but for really showing up for one another in our community. So thank you all. I also want to highlight for everybody that from now until July 13th, the Karsh Center is hosting a backpack drive for new backpacks for 300 students in the community. So you can find all the information for that on the Karsh Center's website. So I hope you will get involved. And we are going to rise now for Aleinu as the ark is open on page 282.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. We have a tradition here at Wilshire Boulevard Temple before Mourner's Kaddish to share the name and one sentence about somebody who you are remembering tonight. So if you are here and thinking of someone who has passed and would like to share their name and something about them with our community, I'll invite you to stand, and the Cantor and I will come around with a microphone so you can share a piece of your loved ones with us.
Hi, tonight is this week was the second yahrzeit of my late husband, Charles. One sentence is a little restrictive. I just wanted to say just a few sentences if I can. Obviously, I miss him every day. Time takes on a very different quality when the love of your life goes on to the next world. It's simultaneously spinning by and also painfully slow. Charlie was remarkable in many ways. He was born in the tenements on the Lower East Side. He was one of 8 children. His mother was profoundly deaf. And then he grew up in the South Bronx projects. He dropped out of school when he was 17, went to the Navy. 6 weeks later, he was in Vietnam. And because of a commanding officer who did a test and said, oh, you know, you really need to finish high school, he finished his GED in the military, and then he went on to get about 8 different degrees in engineering and ended up working for the space program and national defense for 50 years. So he was pretty brilliant. But one of the things he always said to me was, it's much better and more important to be kind than to be smart. And that's how he lived his life, one of the many ways that he lived his life. And he was a Renaissance man, but he was just very special. And it's, you know, it's a hole that never quite fills and never will fill.
My mother, Irene, was gone, passed away on June 19th, so it's still not 30 days since she passed. And I can say that she was passionate and unrelenting with those she loved.
Thank you.
I'm here for my mother-in-law, Leah Hilliard, and she was fun, kind, and loving.
That's true. And it is her 20th yard site. Seems like yesterday. And I distinctly remember her love of coming to Friday night services here on the Irmas Campus.
My father, Richard Dunner, this is actually the second yard site for him. And the more I start reflecting on my father, I'm realizing I'm a mini version of him.
We're remembering his Uncle Max Kaplan. It's his second yard site. He was curious, deeply loving, and deeply human.
May their memories be for a blessing. Thank you to all of you who shared. This month, our community is remembering Nasser Ahdut, Walter Gertz, Faye Sarah Goldstein, Joan Horelik, Sheila Merowitz, and Irene Rezgan. And the yard sites from our community during this past week: Maurice Abmeyer, Steve Alexander, Alan Barbaco, Norman Beck, Arnold Beeler, Lee Bennett, Ashley Botnick, Ray Bachansky, Samuel Braverman, Glika Brenner, David Cantor, Eleanor Castleman, Ed Chains, Joel Cohen, Louise Creamer, Maury Dickman, Harold Eisen, Ralph Feinstein, Matthew Fellman, Shirley Fenton, Theodore Flesh, Dorothy Jean Fox, Melba Rosalind Franklin, Blanche Friedman, Arthur Gardner, Marcia Gardner, Karen Gerard, Raymond Gertz, Ida Goldberg, Leonard Goldman, Jerome Sidney Goodman, Minnie Grant, Lillian Grossberg, Lita Hilliard, Minna Horowitz, Robert Herford, Monroe Eisen, Elizabeth Jacobs, Perry Jacobs, Darren Janger, Sion Javahari, Deary Carrots, Sheila Josephsberg Caston, Max Kessler, Jess Kuden, Suzanne Lax, Emery Lefkowitz, Galbrin Levi, Donna Marlowe Levitas, Erwin Liebman, Eileen Lindenbaum, George Milder, Sidney Joseph Moskowitz, Lisa Nesbitt, Paul Orloff, Lillian Palanker, Leonard Penn, Bess Ratner, Mary Redler, Sidney Rosen, Eric Rothenberg, Cynthia Round, Dorothy Rubin, Miriam Sanders, Walter Schloss, Charles Schwartz, Jacob Schwartz, Shirley Glassberg Schwartz, Robbie Sedway, Roseanne Silverman, Aaron Joshua Simmons, Ida Sondheimer, Pauline Stark, Brycel Stern, Pauline Taylor, Jerry Traeger, Marianne Trebax, Joan Tucker, Allison Kellner Villamater, Paul Weingarten, Jerry Weintraub, Alvin Weisberg, Claretta White, Joseph Weiner, Issy Wohl, Stanley Zimmerman, and Theodore Zola. Are there any other names anyone would like to add for our yard sites this week? If you are in the period of Shiva or Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning, I'll ask you to please rise. If you are within the first year of mourning, you can rise. Anyone observing a yard site, please rise. And we all rise now together to support one another in strength and in memory. For Mourner's Kaddish, we're on page 294. Yigadal v'kadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yerutei ve'yamlich malchutei, be'chayechon uvyamechon uvchayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulamei almaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata damiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
I have been so impressed tonight by the kids who are here and that you have made it to the end of the service and done such a fabulous job. Any kids who are here, if you want to come up for Kiddush and Motzi, if your grown-ups want to come up with you too, great. And we'll invite everyone to come and join us for Kiddush and Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom tehillah lemikra'e kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta ve'otanu min kedashta mikol amim ve'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava u'v'ratzon hinhaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim.
Okay, Miles. There, turn around. You hold it real high. Hold it high up.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom. Okay, come over here. You guys come here. All right, you take it right there. Take it right there. 1, 2, 3, pull. Oh, you did it. Okay. You want a piece? Shabbat shalom. Take some. Piece? That's a good piece. That's a good one. You want to take a piece for Daddy? Take a piece for your daddy.